Hi, my name is Aditri Chaudhary, and I will be explaining ethanol, which is the biofuel that I have decided to make my project about. So, a little introduction about ethanol and its background. The history of ethanol dates back to ancient times when it was used as the intoxicating ingredient in alcoholic beverages. Ethanol was first isolated from wine around 1100 and was found to burn shortly thereafter. These early solutions distilled from wine salt mixtures and were referred to as aqua ardens, burning water, or aqua flammans, flaming water, and had such low alcohol content that they burned without producing noticeable heat. In the 1860s, Nicholas Otto began experimenting with internal combustion engines using ethanol fuel. The first ethanol blended with gasoline for use as an octane booster occurred in the 1920s and 1930s and was in high demand during World War II because of fuel shortages. Today's ethanol industry began in the 1970s when petroleum based fuel became expensive and environmental concerns involving leaded gasoline created a need for an octane 34. Ethanol is used in food and beverages, manufacturing processes, industrial products, and as a fuel. It also has modern medical applications as an antiseptic, disinfectant, solvent for some medications, and antidote for methanol poisoning and ethylene glycol poisoning. How is ethanol grown and reproduced? It can be made through two different ways: fermentation and fractional distillation. Fermentation is an anaerobic process which turns glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Yeast, a type of single-celled fungus, provides the enzymes needed for fermentation. If the yeast cells become too cold, fermentation happens very slowly or may not happen at all. If the yeast cells become too hot, their enzymes become denatured and fermentation stops. There are typical conditions that are listed below that are ideal for fermentation. Another way to make ethanol is fractional distillation. This is when the fermentation mixture contains yeast cells and insoluble substances. These are separate from the impure ethanol solution by filtration, and fractional distillation is then used to produce a concentrated solution of ethanol from the filtrate. This works because ethanol and water have different boiling points. When the mixture is heated, ethanol evaporates more readily. Is ethanol widely available? Yes, ethanol is widely available. And its impact on the carbon footprint is there's a reduced carbon footprint. A study conducted by researchers at the U.S. Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory reveals that the use of corn ethanol is reducing the carbon footprint and diminishing greenhouse gases. The study, which analyzed corn ethanol production in the United States from 2009 to 2019, found a 23% reduction in greenhouse gases, increased energy efficiency. The U.S. ethanol industry has sufficient capacity to produce more than 17 billion gallons of ethanol and reduce GHG emissions by an estimated 42.7 million metric tons per year, which is approximately 2% of the total U.S. transportation emissions. However, it is not deemed the most fuel efficient source because you need a lot more energy to produce the amount of fuel needed to run things. The economic impact of ethanol is significant. In 2022, the ethanol industry created 78,802 direct jobs and 342,876 indirect or induced jobs. It has provided a lot of jobs and a lot of money in the economy. Efforts to communicate the use of ethanol to the public are ongoing. The U.S. Energy Information Administration provides detailed information about the use of ethanol as a fuel. Gasoline fueling pumps that dispense motor gasoline containing fuel ethanol in the United States identify or label the gasoline according to its ethanol content. There are also other projects, such as the BEST project, that have been created with the intent of encouraging ethanol usage in urban public transportation. Lastly, the next possible steps. The current situation of ethanol is that it is widely used and is able to be funded. It is being heavily backed up by the government and is commonly used in many household items. However, from the data shown, it doesn't seem to be the most efficient biofuel, and some steps to be taken may be figuring out more efficient biofuel techniques and ensuring that biofuel made of ethanol is being made safely. And these are my references.